Hi everyone, welcome to this critical reasoning video. In this video, we are discussing and identify the structure or identify the reasoning question. We can see the argument behind me. We're going to read and process the argument. We're going to break down the argument into its structural elements, and then we're going to do the process of elimination across all of our answer options. Let's jump right in. Industrial and automobile pollution have long been considered primary contributors of global warming. When you see words such as long been considered, what you can expect somewhere later in your reading comprehension passage or in your CR argument, something to the effect that this situation has changed, that things are no longer considered in this fashion. However, you can see that there is a however in the very next sentence. Researchers have now identified that the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide released into the atmosphere are not as potent as the methane emitted by cut-chewing animals such as cows when they fart or belch. So, we are comparing the toxicity, the potency of carbon dioxide, monoxide and methane. The carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide being released when you have industrial and automobile pollution, and methane being released when you have cut-chewing animals such as cows. Therefore, if you drive a hybrid electric car to the grocery, any favor that you would do to the environment would be offset if you end up buying beef. So, what you have here in the last sentence of the argument is a hypothetical example. The author is not talking about what is actually happening. The author is presenting a hypothetical scenario. The author seems to be accepting this new research that the researchers have identified, this new theory around methane and cut-chewing animals, which is why the author is saying that, hey, you might drive a hybrid electric car because you want to reduce automobile pollution and save the environment, but then if you buy beef, then you're encouraging cows to exist, more likely you are encouraging cattle farming, whatever is the reason for global warming, and therefore you are still contributing to the decline of the environment. That seems to be the implication behind the author's hypothetical example. We have the question that asks us to identify the author's reasoning. If you notice, none of the answer options actually talk about global warming or methane or anything of that sort. These are very abstract answer options. We have to figure out the structure of the argument in our own words and then see which of these answer options make a logical sense, fit logically to what we have figured out. So, let's think about the argument. The first thing that you have is a long established or an accepted theory. And this theory is about how industrial pollution and automobile pollution are contributing to global warming. This is not the author's opinion. This is just something that has been long accepted by pretty much everybody. Second, you have a counter to whatever is going earlier, and it says that, hey, industrial pollution and automobile pollution emit carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide, but then they are less potent than methane. And this second thing that we are coming up with is not the author's opinion either. This is something that the researchers have identified, and that's important for you to figure out. Whenever you're doing structure questions and author's reasoning questions, you need to be able to say what part of the argument is from the author's perspective. Because if you're not looking at it from the author's perspective, it's not something the author is doing. So then you can't capture it as part of the author's thought process because the author is not involved there. It's only the researchers who have come up with this theory. This third part, in support of the researchers, you have a hypothetical scenario presented, and this hypothetical scenario is finally something that the author is presenting. So the author's argument is about supporting the researchers. It's not about directly countering this long established theory. It's not about coming up with a theory on the author's own, but about supporting this new research around carbon dioxide and methane and the potency and about cut-chewing animals. Let's look at our options. The author establishes the point by drawing an analogy. Well, the author is not drawing an analogy. To draw an analogy is to make some sort of a comparison, and the author is not making a comparison. There is a comparison in the argument between CO2 and methane, but that comparison has not been made by the author, it is made by the researchers. So, is the author drawing an analogy? The author is not. The researchers are comparing CO2 and methane, not necessarily the author drawing an analogy, so that's out. We'll eliminate A. The author disproves a popular notion by providing evidence that is contrary to it. Now, if evidence is a problem here, evidence is something that has actually happened, something that is a very specific particular fact. If I told you, look at these students, they have all scored 700 plus. This is proof that Wizako is a good place to learn your CR theory. I am giving you evidence. I am giving you facts. So I am giving you data, I am giving you numbers, right? If I just said, in general, if you prepare with Wizako, then you are likely to have a good score, I might be right, but I am not giving you any facts to back that up. All I am giving you is an if conditional scenario. And that's all the author is doing, presenting a hypothetical. A hypothetical scenario cannot be called an evidence, and that is the primary reason we're going to go ahead and eliminate B. The author develops a new theory in response to an existing well-established theory. Yes, you have an existing well-established theory. Yes, you have a new theory. My problem with C is it says the author develops it. Who is coming up with a new theory? It is not the author who is developing it, but the researchers who are developing the new theory. You are attributing the author for this whole methane cut-chewing animals discussion, when all that the author is doing is supporting the researchers and validating them with a hypothetical example, not coming up with a new theory on the author's own. So we'll go ahead and eliminate C as well. Let's look at the next option. The author uses an illustration to support a new school of thought that is contrary to a popular school of thought. Yes, you have a popular school of thought around industrial and automobile pollution. Yes, you have a new school of thought which is about the methane and the cut-chewing animals. It is a new school of thought because it says researchers have now discovered or something to that effect. The author uses an illustration. I can call the hypothetical scenario an illustration. An illustration is an example, a demonstration that you are doing in order to validate something. So this is an example, not a true example, a hypothetical example, but an example nonetheless that the author is using to say, hey, if you are someone who wants to protect the environment and that's why you're driving a hybrid car, you go and buy beef in that hybrid car, then one is offsetting the other. So it paints a picture. In order to validate something, D definitely is something the author is doing. We'll hold on to D. Let's quickly check E as well. The author makes a comparison between two theories by providing an example. Yes, there is an example. The hypothetical example, this part works, but we have already talked about this in the first answer option. The author is not making a comparison. There is a comparison that's existing in the argument between carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and methane and how potent, how toxic they are, but such a comparison has been made by the researchers, not by the author. So we'll eliminate E as well, and that means in our final analysis, D as in delta is the correct answer.